In 1901, the Texas oil boom started when oil was found out here in the area known as Gladys City, or the Spindletop area. Today, it is a museum called the Spindletop Boomtown Museum. It is owned and operated by Lamar University. It has artifacts in a town kind of depicting the area when the when the oil boom started. Let's take a look. So this is like a recreation of the early 1900s Boomtown that started here in Beaumont, formerly known as Spindletop. There's different buildings. Wow. That you can go into and see how it was in the early 1900s. Pretty interesting. I wasn't expecting to see, I guess you'd say, so many artifacts, or large artifacts, I guess you'd say, such as this big old oil tanker. And this kind of shows the how the oil derricks used to work. They say when that one, the Lucas Gusher went off, it went off for a couple of days. I think it was like 9 days before they could get it contained. And after that, it was producing like 100,000 gallons of oil a day, I believe it was. Something like that. It was an interesting little movie you watch before you come out here to the Boomtown area. Now I believe all these buildings we're going to be able to go into in some part or fashion. All different kinds of buildings out here, from drugstores to post office to the old saloon here and barber shop. So let's go in the barber shop and see what we got. Inside the barber shop is pretty cool. It has some barber chairs, old potbelly stove, a little informational placard that tells you the importance of a barber shop. Get your haircut for 25 cents. Now what's an oil boom town without a saloon? Huh. This is pretty cool. Cool pianos, big safe. Come in here and get you a shot of whiskey or beer or whatever. I bet you get pretty rowdy in here sometimes. Next, we're going to go mosey on over here to the post office. Let's see what a post office in the early 1900s looked like. A very basic setup here. Places where you could drop your mail off, buy some money orders, or some stamps if you needed to send a letter off. There's a postcard that was mailed from the area in 1907. Sending letters back home or money orders back home to your family. Here's another postcard, looks like from 1910. This is the dry goods store, I guess, kind of like your, kind of a grocery store, I guess. Oh wow. I guess you could also get clothing and shoes, baby carriages. Look at the old shoes down here. How about some socks? SOX. 6 months of wear or 6 new pairs free. They have a 6-month warranty on them. Time clock and counter. Huh. So I guess this is how you punched in and out in 1888. Old school sewing machine. You can fix your clothes up. Really wasn't expecting to see this much here at this museum. Lots and lots of artifacts and I guess you say memorabilia maybe? Some sewing cotton and things for sewing machines, needles, old buttons. All kinds of interesting things. Some set sewn underwear. I'll take a look at this old school cash register. Now if you look, it says National. That company is still in production today. And many of you use them every day using self-checkouts and regular checkouts, but they're under the name NCR, National Cash Register. Still going. And this is the general store. It says it has rooms upstairs, so let's go see if we can see what a room looked like in the early 1900s. So this is like what I guess we would say a modern day Airbnb would be like. A place you could rest your head after work, get a nap. Could be like a modern day hotel, if you will. A couple different rooms set up in here. Show you kind of how it looked in the early 1900s. Back here was a kitchen where the people could come in and get a hot meal, relax. Look at an old stove there. Old ice box, Mace ice box. Another room. Pretty interesting. Very simplistic though. So from my understanding, the owners of these businesses would put that second story above their businesses of those rooms, and there's more ways for them to make money. Wow. This is impressive. Absolutely impressive. All the old, well, back then they weren't old. Modern age back then in the early 1900s. Things you needed or buy. Like an old pull-behind wagon for kids to ride around in. Come in here and get fruits and vegetables and irons to iron your clothes and sharpen your knives. Come in here and play some checkers with your friend next to the stove. Like a seed planter. Absolutely impressive in here. Canned goods and crackers and breads, maybe medicines and elixirs, and most importantly, coffee. And there's another National Cash Register. If you know what that is, let me know in the comments below. It's interesting. Doesn't tell you what it is, but if you know what that is, let me know in the comments below. This is the oil exchange. It's my understanding this is where you would come in and purchase stocks of these numerous oil companies that arose after the oil boom. It shows you the prices of each oil company. Kind of like a stock exchange here. Now they still had to keep law and order in the area. This looks like it was a attorney's office with all the books, law books and things like that. Typewriters, adding machines, more old books, law books. Beaumont's print shop. Now, another not known fact about me, I have a degree in graphic arts and offset printing. I guess my profession was not anymore, was offset printing and press design and web design and things like that, but the cards didn't lay down for me to continue with that. But I have actually set up and used letterpress such as so. That round thing would be full of ink, and this plate right here would be paper, and it would come up, a roller would come up, ink that black piece right there, and the paper would be pressed onto it, and that's where you would get your flyer or whatever you were printing. It's a very, very time-consuming process. And that right there is like a binding machine for putting spines on books. And that looks like a paper cutter back there that would take your fingers off in a New York second. But all these drawers are full of letterpress letters and designs and things like that, and you would basically design what you were trying to make in reverse and then place it on that, and the paper would press onto it, and you would get the reverse image, which would end up being what you're looking at. If you look here, you can see those letters are in reverse. And this is the photographer views of Spindletop. You should come in here and get your pictures taken. Send off to your loved ones. Oh wow. Look at all these old cameras. Early 1900 cameras. Wow. Absolutely impressive. Was not expecting to see all this here. Film reels. Vest pocket. Autographic from Kodak. 1902 to 1916. This is absolutely extremely impressive here of all the cameras. I think this is a developer. Negative enlarger used at Texaco refinery. Huh. Okay. If you see up there in the ceiling, that is what is referred to as knob and tube. You have a knob and you have a tube, and you have two conductors of wire. And those wires were live, and they were not insulated usually. And that's how they ran power through the houses. I've seen houses that still have knob and tube wiring in the attics. It's kind of scary getting up there and you see it and you don't know if it's live or not still. But look at these cameras and such. This is just, I've never seen this many old school cameras from the early 1900s in one place. I'm sure there's places that have more, but I've never seen anything of this magnitude. Darkroom safe light. That is a light that was, it produced like a red glow, and it wouldn't develop the film in the dark rooms, but you could still see. It's a very weird, almost horrific type light. If you've ever worked in a dark room, you know what I'm talking about. Well, this is very impressive. And next we're going to go into the T.A. Lamb & Sons printers. I believe this is another printing shop that has some artifacts and things like that. This is one of the newer buildings here. Let's go in here and take a look. Alright y'all, this is extremely impressive. This is another print shop with a paper cutter there, binding machine, printer's devil. Not sure what that's for. There's another letterpress machine. Now a lot of these letterpress machines were made in Germany. I'm not sure where these were made from, but a lot of them are made in Germany, Gutenberg, I believe. See all the letterpress trays. These trays would sit in drawers. You pull them out. You have different logos and things like that that you would use. Now this is similar to the one that I have ran. It's a linotype machine. This one's from the late 1800s, I believe. The one I use, it was referred to as a windmill machine because, no, this is not like I used, sorry. This is different. The one I use, they call it a windmill machine. This is a whole different aspect of offset printing and lithography. I think you would type out what you would want and it would make it for you. It would line up the blocks of letters. I'm not exactly sure, I can't remember. But that's from the the late 1800s. And the areas there is where you would line up all the type, press, lines, graphics, things like that nature. Not sure what that roller was for. That's interesting. If you look at this type, every bit of that type was probably done by hand. And this wall here shows you basically kind of how they did things, how this process went. Manual paper cutter. Definitely interesting seeing that, you know, I guess my background, totally different time back then. Let's go in here and take a look at the drugstore. Maybe get us a milkshake and see the doctor. We can get you a milkshake or an ice cream sundae or a soda. That's where the term soda jerk came from, as they would jerk the handle of the soda spigots there, making the bubbles or whatever it did. I don't remember. But yeah, you can see all the different flavorings and elixirs. You got sassafras back there, make you a root beer. That's interesting. You can also see it has the old knob and tube wiring there in the ceiling. This is a very interesting recreation of buildings. They have done a lot of research, it looks like, and spent a lot of time and effort and money building this stuff and collecting all these relics. And people have also donated these to preserve the history of them. There's a little picture. And here's the doctor's office. So if you got an ailment, you can come in here and see the doctor, and you know, hopefully he gets you fixed up. Looks like a x-ray machine back there in the back, and some eye equipment there, old wheelchair, and hopefully you didn't have to use that thing, because that looks like an operating table and a bedpan. Yeah, old hurricane lamps. Have no clue what that's for. If you know what that's for, let me know. Looks like a breathing machine or something. I don't know. That's crazy. Got some scalpels and things like that. And there. I'm sure working the oil fields was probably pretty dangerous in times. I guess it was good to get you a milkshake and a doctor at the same time. So this has maps and legal things of Gladys City. Kind of shows you the area of how it looked back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. Some informational placards about the people that you see there on the wall behind us. I guess this was kind of a legal office, something like that. I'm not exactly sure. This was the office for some company. Let's just say that. All right. Looks like an old, what do they call that? Switchboard. Making phone calls. This could be kind of, I guess, maybe like the city hall almost. Here's a map. You have all the oil fields, and then the town, and I guess maybe more oil fields. It was interesting, this whole area had 2 or 3 oil booms. One in the early 1900s that started it all, and then it died off. And then one in the mid to late 1920s, they found more oil on the outskirts of the area, I guess. And then it lasted until late 50s, I believe that's what they said. And all these people and pictures here are kind of the history of the whole area that led to the Texas oil boom. Let's go into Collies from machining to automation. I believe this is a company whose family started here in the oil boom.
He worked in Chicago for the Continental Can Company in research and development until he returned home.
They started in the oil boom and ended up making other automations such as steam motors, steam engines, all up into large robot gantry cranes that you see here. And this company is actually still going as Sage Automation. They make robots and other things like that. And their business basically started here in the oil boom and as part owner and chief director of research and development. Nelson and White Engineers. This company was the first company that commercially drafted the map of the whole Spindletop area, and this is kind of like their office, home office, if you will. Shows you a map right there on the wall of Gladys City. Some of the measuring tools and devices that they used. Transoms, I believe that's what that's called. The old phone on the wall there, that's cool. You don't see those too much. And then you can see that knob and tube that I was talking about earlier. This is an outlet. You can see there. Knob and tube outlets. You don't see them too much anymore. Old potbelly type stove, wood stove. Another map back there of Beaumont. Drafting tools, I guess it is. I don't know what that is there. Looks like it's spun around. See, there's a drum and a wheel and some gears. If you know what that's for, let me know in the comments below. It's interesting. And this building is Southern Carriage Works. And this company was actually operating right up until 1972, they're saying. So let's go in here and see what they were doing the oil boom of the early 1900s. Wow. It's like a blacksmith shop. Not well sure how this is going to show up on camera. There we go. Wow. I've been to a couple of actual operating blacksmith shops, and I believe this one, certain days of the year, they actually have blacksmiths in here demonstrating and making things for the public to come in and see. Unfortunately, they're not here today, but place to heat up the steel, iron, or whatever they were making it with. And there's no air conditioning in this building, and they're not doing any blacksmithing right now, and it's quite warm in here. I bet you it got really hot whenever they're doing the blacksmithing. There's an old lathe, a drill press, and some sharpening wheels, old school dolly, bandsaw. How it runs off the belts there. Meridian, Mississippi. There is a steam, I think it's the only operating machine shop in the United States that still runs off of steam. I went to a steam festival there a couple years ago. Had steam engines and things like that. And if I can remember, I'll put a video of it or a link to it here in the top right of the screen here. But yeah, blacksmithing is interesting. I've done a little bit of it, amateur, very, very amateur, and basically made like prison shanks out of it, but you know, it's definitely an interesting art form. And this is the Broussard's Undertaker livery and boarding stable. So you could get your horses boarded and have a funeral at the same time. Oh wow. Lots of wagons and accessories and tack that was used with horses. There's even some drilling rig bits down there. You can see, if I can get zoomed in on them, there we go. Those were some of the bits that may have been used out here during the oil boom. Let me zoom out, there we go. I don't know what these are. They look like forms, casting forms, probably for making fittings maybe. I'm not sure. If you know what these are used for, let me know. Not exactly sure. That's interesting though. On the other side here is the mortuary, funeral home. It's crazy. Shows some old pine caskets from very basic there to moving on up to a little bit more fancier to kind of modern day, I guess you'd say. And the company that this started out as is still going in business. I believe this is one of the few companies outside of some of the old businesses that started. This is still operating as Broussard's Mortuary and Funeral Home. So a lot of these things is the predecessor to their company. It's still going today. Just kind of weird. A mortuary, funeral home, and horse tack shop. Interesting. There's a plaque here that shows you what each tool is for. Now it looks like a drill head, or the, I guess you say, yeah, rotary drill. That's what actually spun the long shaft of the drill bit. Different types of drill bits, homemade drill bits and experimental drill bits. It was interesting. It was all the stuff was new to these people, and they're trying anything they could do to get the most oil they could get during that oil boom. It's an interesting look here at the Gladys City Spindletop Boomtown reenactment or recreation town. Way more than I thought it was going to be, and well worth the $5 for admission. And of course we're going to exit for the gift shop like most places do, and I'll probably buy some things in there too to support the cause. This is actually owned by Lamar University, so this is all educational, and this is the educational stuff that I like to see. This is interesting, very interesting. If you're ever out here in Beaumont, I guess it's South Beaumont, definitely come out here and you can spend an hour or 2 or 3 out here just looking at everything. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Like always, appreciate y'all watching, and we'll see you next time.